Hey, this is Nick from The Unknown Film Enthusiast, and today I wanted to do a quick review of the movie Green Book. So, Green Book is a movie about Dr. Don Shirley, who's a world-class African-American pianist who chooses to embark on a concert tour of the Deep South in the 1960s, and in order to do so, he hires a bodyguard and driver by the name of Tony Lip, who is a tough-talking bouncer from an Italian-American neighborhood in the Bronx. Now, this movie has been receiving relatively positive acclaim, with an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes, an 8.3 on IMDb, and a 70% on Metacritic. And in general, I would say that I enjoyed this movie, even though I felt that it did a pretty clumsy job of skirting over most of the race relations issues in order to instead focus on the comedy and interaction between the two characters. And in saying that, the two leads do a wonderful job together. Viggo Mortensen has never been as funny and charismatic as a role like this, and Mahershala Ali does a very good job of the stoic and somewhat reserved straight man, which is kind of needed in a movie like this. So basically, the movie plays out almost like a buddy cop movie where the two of them travel throughout the Deep South. They haplessly stumble upon racism and basically don't spend that much time actually dealing with it, but in the bonds they both learn how to overcome the stereotypes of each of their races and basically come to better terms as to who they are as individuals. And while this works for these two main characters, when you start thinking of the film as any deeper than that, it becomes quite clear that the movie is never comfortable in addressing race issues up front, and instead chooses to make a more appealing movie for the masses, which is fine. You want your movie to be seen, but it almost feels worse to have attempted to grapple these topics and in the end gloss over them to kind of have this sort of white savior type movie. But all in all, the movie itself breezes by. For a 2 hour and 10 minute movie, the pacing is absolutely perfect, and because the hard themes are not very focused on, it is a very easy watch. When I saw this in the theater, it was pretty crowded, and thanks to recent awards buzz, with it winning Golden Globe for Best Comedy Musical, a lot more people are going out and seeing it. And personally, I feel that there's really no harm done with this movie. It's very much a paint-by-numbers story of racism, a la Driving Miss Daisy, and films of that kind. And the way it seems to pace itself matches more along the lines of something like a Forrest Gump than a movie like American History X or Do the Right Thing, which do a more interesting job of dealing with social issues of the time. That being said, the issues that they do address, such as Don Shirley's homosexuality and the way that he feels like he needs to put on a white act in order to get these gigs, is handled in a very respectable way, and it leads to some very emotionally powerful questions that are then brought up. The sad part is there's no real conclusion to it, and based on information that I've read post seeing the movie, the relationship was not exactly as they showed it in the film, and they tried to make them seem more buddy-buddy and more like they both learned a lot from each other, when in reality it was more Tony Lip becoming a slightly better person by the end. And I think that is just the result of Nick Vallelonga, brother of Tony Lip, being the one who brought this story forward. And in all honesty, Dr. Shirley's story is a lot more interesting than that of the driver, and while the movie gives a unique lens to the way it's told, the way that the race is glossed over in order to make a more fun and breezy movie really doesn't do the movie any favors in lasting power, and I doubt that this will be a movie that most people talk about in a few years. But for a paint-by-numbers tale of history, it does a serviceable job, and that's all that you can really ask for, I guess. And most important of all is, how does this movie connect to 2002's Signs? And the answer is through none other than Linda Cardellini. She plays Viggo Mortensen's wife in this film, and she plays one of the love interests for Heath Ledger's character in the movie Brokeback Mountain. And also in Brokeback Mountain is Jake Gyllenhaal, who was seen earlier this year in the movie The Sisters Brothers with Joaquin Phoenix being in 2002's movie Signs. Signs sealed delivered, it's Signs. Thank you, and have a good night.